Hi, everybody. I'm Don Meissner, and I'm here with Eddy again. In our last meeting, we showed you how exciting muskie fishing can be and how it can be somewhat predictable. And so today we're going to look deeper at just how all of you might be able to have the same experience. And Rust, you showed us a little bit about figure eighting the last time you showed, and the thing that strikes me is how you kept the rod tip in the water. And when people see that action, it really excites them. I've been all over the Northeast showing these videos, and that's the video that people like. But today I want to look at a day that you and Dave went out on, I think it was Grasse River, but you went out muskie fishing like you so often do. And I think that day illustrates just how special and incredible this fishing is.
Well, you're absolutely right. And what we saw on that last video, on that figure eight, I think maybe I mentioned, was the culmination of really an amazing, magical day on the Grasse River. A typical muskie hunt, we'll go out for several hours, and if we move a dozen fish and get one in the boat or maybe two in the boat, that's a really good day. More often than not, you don't even boat one, but you see them and you encounter them. If you're lucky, you get some good strikes. Occasionally, you get that magical, amazing day. And that day where you guys saw that figure eight, there were four other fish before that one that I hooked up and caught and released. And I've had a couple of four fish caught and released. A number of times when it's been three. Those are just as magical. But this was just off the charts amazing. And, all the stars were aligned. I can't tell you, I've thought a lot about that day. I can't tell you it was any different. I think it was a bluebird sky, and then maybe it got a little cloudy as the day went on. But for whatever reason, the bite was on. The fish were in an aggressive mode. And whenever I put a lure anywhere near a fish, the fish moved on it, attacked it, and got hooked up. I don't even remember seeing any more than five fish that day. We might have, but the five that I remember were caught and released.
They were caught by my buddy Rust. So what do you say we take a look at that video now?
Sounds good.
Rust, as we begin this video, I think the thing that first surprises people is how small this water is, how intimate, how close everything is to you. And I think people don't associate muskie fishing with that. And right now we see you battling one. This must be the first fish. And
this is fish number one. And if you see right there, you can look up in front of the boat and you can see that downed log. And the first cast in a muskie hole is always the most important. I'm standing for a couple of reasons. One, because I can see the fish come out better, I can see the river better, and two, because I have a better angle of casting. And what you didn't see is that I threw that lure right up, right into that little corner, and as soon as that lure landed, that fish exploded on that lure, took it in, and in an aggressive mode, it got hooked up. And that's the key about this day as we watch these fish. Those fish were so aggressive that each time they presented themselves and attacked, they hooked up. Partly because I set the hook right, but more, I think, and we'll talk about this a little later, more importantly, because of their aggression.
Well, Russ, one of the things that you've always told me, and every time we go out and I'm casting with you, you're sitting back there watching and watching. You're always saying, you got to get closer. You got to cast closer to the shore. And I'll think, well, gee, I'm within a foot. And you're like, no, that isn't close enough. And you really have to be almost on the shore when that lure lands. Is that correct?
If we're looking at that shoreline, that bank of the river, those fish are sitting literally right on the bank of the river. There might be a little, what you can't see is perhaps a little indentation, a little cubby hole, a little spidey hole down in there, and that's where they sit and they wait and prey. These fish, they're ambush fish. They're the top of the food chain, Don, and through evolutionary history, they have learned how to hunt and how to feed, and they want to conserve energy. So they're going to sit and they're going to wait, and as soon as something jumps in off the bank, bam, they're on it. And they don't miss when they're in aggressive mood.
Well, that brings up an important point, too. Why can't they do the same thing in the middle of the river, waiting for fish to come by, but they're always right on the bank? Does that mean that they seem to prefer stuff coming from off the shore as opposed to things swimming by?
I think consistently their food supply is frogs jumping in off the bank, maybe baby birds falling into the river out of a nest. I think certainly bass are a food source, but think about bass when they're behind rocks along shoreline too. So when they come out to feed, they'll come out right into a muskie's lair as well. But the key is, how are they going to be hidden in the middle of the river? Maybe if there's a rock or a cliff or some sort of structure under that we can't see, but much of the structure is on the side. That's another reason they're on the side, because if you look, where are all the down limbs? That's where your muskie lairs are.
It almost reminds me, though, as you're talking about the bass, a lot of times there's some really nice smallmouths in the same exact spots. And it's almost like the watering holes in Africa where all the different animals come together, the prey and the predators all are sharing together and they're not showing anything. And so I guess maybe the bass think, well, okay, the law of averages is today they're not going to come after me. And I know that sounds kind of simple, but those bass lay right in the same areas. Something that also comes to mind as we're watching this, and I think it's a very, very important point, because we're all willing to share this extraordinary resource with everybody watching. We want people to have the incredible fun experience that we do. But there's a price to pay for that, and the price is to try to protect these fish and make sure they're there for another day. And I notice that every single one of these fish that you're catching, you don't bring them into the boat. And you reach down and you're able to release the hook in a way that stresses them, I think, the least that could happen at this point. Because this is the most dangerous point in their life right now, is when they could be handled, when the hook could be gouged in deeper or whatever. So tell us a little bit about how you came to this.
Well, on this particular day, I think, as we'll see, we netted one fish at the end of the day to get a picture of it, and it was a little bit more difficult to release that hook. But as you see, I can reach down with a pair of pliers. If, as you fight the fish and it gets near the boat and it tires out, you can see if the barrel of the hook in it, more often than not, is showing. So the hook is in the mouth, but the barrel is just outside the mouth of the hook. So if you take the pliers and needle those pliers and reach down, and the fish is fatigued at this point enough to allow you to reach down with the pliers, grab the barrel of the hook, and just give a little wrist snap and release that hook. Now, I say that and it sounds super easy. Listen, I've had the luxury and the privilege of spending a lot of time on the Grasse River and catching a lot of muskies. And I got to confess, of the first, here's our figure eight.
I know this is the climax of the whole video. This is where Dave pointed over and said, "Rust, there's one over there after my lure." And
I just watched the buckle. The knees buckle right now.
I know.
Here come the knees.
I know. I've watched this so many times that it's really amazing. Your attention all of a sudden goes into Hyperville, and.
Yeah. And that the knees buckled when I saw the fish. Dave saw the fish. I didn't see the fish. He just pointed to it, so I cast up against the bank. And when I saw the fish is when the knees buckled, and I saw the fish coming in behind it. That's the amazing thing about muskie fishing. That really, I can't say that I've ever experienced in any other type of fishing. It's so visual. You can see the attack begin before it even, I see the motion off the, if I cast up there and I see anything that doesn't look like natural current or just the natural splash of the lure, if there's some other movement, I'm almost certain the muskie's moving, and then I can catch the wake of it and I can see the fish coming behind the lure, and then the visualness of the experience takes over. There's topwater fishing and bass, and there's fly fishing. I did a lot of that, and that's visual as well. I mean, I've sight fished for trout before, but there's nothing like because you don't see the muskie until it decides to show itself. And when it does, man, it's unmatchable. That's the beauty of it.
Well, I'll tell you another beauty of all this is if we've watched you fishing, you're not using big, heavy tackle. You're not using great big lures. You're using something that you feel mimics what they're keyed into, which is stuff jumping off the shore. So, tell the folks now your favorite lures, because we see you fishing this, that we see a couple different lures that you had used.
Yeah, so these are mimicking frogs or something jumping off the bank. So a little horny toad is a topwater frog that its back feet do this and agitate the water as it comes along the top of the water, and that entices fish to come out. And grass pigs, we came across grass pigs. Dave and I, just by chance, discovered that grass pigs were effective, and typically, historically, black and pink grass pigs are just off the charts good. And
Well, people might not know. They might not know what a grass pig is. It's actually just a plastic lure about 5 inches long that imitates a minnow. I mean, it's shaped sort of streamlined, and you can make it wiggle through the water. Again, another soft plastic bait.
Well, the beauty of that particular bait is it is soft plastic and it is designed so that you can hook it and bury the tip of the hook back into the plastic. So, I mean, literally, I'm throwing that thing into brush, actually up on a bank, and I've seen a fish jump out of the water and take that grass pig off the bank before I pop it back into the water. I've seen that happen. So that's really a great lure.
How do they get up on the bank? How does the muskie get on the bank?
Well, have you ever seen a salmon jump up a waterfall?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, imagine a muskie jumping up onto dry land and grabbing the lure that's there and then turning around and serpentining like a snake back into the water with the lure and having the muskie hooked up. I promise you, I was in the back. I had the advantage of being in the back of the boat on that day, and Melissa, who I fish with all the time, had that happen, and I was happier to be watching that than to have it happen to me, because I got to see it all, and I wouldn't have believed it had I not been there and seen it with my own eyes.
Okay, finally, before we sign off today, I want to tell folks a few keys to how they could be successful doing this. Number one, they got to have either a small craft like a canoe, a gay canoe like you're fishing in, or maybe a small flat bottom boat like a Coleman Crawdad used to make years and years ago. Because these pools all come to an end, and where they come to an end, it's a lot of shallow water to the point you'd almost have to get out and pull the boat to the next place. The second thing is that you need wire leaders, correct? Because these muskies' teeth can, and that's a time for another little meeting you and I are going to have and show people the day that those musky teeth almost finished my buddy Rust. But they can sever any line and you're going to lose the fish. So a wire leader is pretty much essential, or a really heavy fluorocarbon leader, like in 50-pound test or bigger. So what else would you tell people that they need to know?
First cast is most important. You've got, or my learning curve was really slow because I didn't, and it was really, it's a study in species behavior. And over the course of time, I learned where they are and how to make them move. And the really simple answer to that is recognizing their habitat, where they are going to be, and putting that first cast somewhere near where they're sitting in ambush.
Well, one final thing I want to say, and it's really, I've said it already today, and it's important that people try to protect these fish. This is the one thing we ask, that if you're going to go and enjoy these fish, do everything in your power to return them. Muskies tend to give off a tremendous amount of lactic acid when they're fighting, more than other fish. Even though they're powerful and they're the top of the food chain, they tend to exhaust themselves, and then they leave themselves vulnerable for disease and vulnerable not to recover. So we don't want to handle them if we can help it. And so that's a
and
really,
if you do, Don, and if you do, I get, everybody likes to get that picture, and if they do that, and I get that, and that's fine, that's cool, be easy with the fish, and then when you release it, let it revive, hold it still in the water, and let that fish just revive and get some oxygen flowing through the gills, and then you'll tell when it's able to swim away, and then you can let it go.
well, I have one more thing. I keep saying one more thing, but I wanted to show this because we're talking about frogs, and I hope people can see this. This is an example of the type of baits that we use, and you can see it's not very big, and there's no weight on it because when we're fishing muskies, we don't want, number one, our hook exposed because then it's going to hook into the very debris that they're hiding around. And second of all, we want to try to keep it, in most cases, on the surface. If it's on the surface, then we can see the fish coming. We can see the wake, and we can get that extra bonus of both seeing the strike and feeling the strike. And so how we hook these is with a 5-0 hook that we run through the frog and then back out, and it's just buried a little bit inside the soft plastic. So here's what happens. When these fish hit this, you're going to have to use a lot more power when you strike and set the hook to make sure that hook penetrates. But there's not a better bait. Now this one's yellow, so you can see it well. It has I think a little white stomach. But like Russ said, his favorite colors are black or pink. But you know, I think whatever color you use and you see those fish reacting to it, that can become your favorite color because then you got confidence, then you're going to fish it just a little bit better. Well, Russ, I really want to thank you for sharing some of your, a lot of people that love this sport so much like you do and have found an area that rewards you so much. They wouldn't want to share it with others. And I really commend you on that. And I thank you for being able to share this with so many people.
Now, it's always a pleasure talking fishing with Don Meissner.
Well, until next time, maybe Russ will be here again. This is Don Meissner, wishing you all the opportunities that we've been able to share with you. Until next time, we'll see you.